All right, what's up, fellas? So I have every genetic factor that I could think of that can contribute to the goal of getting jacked and stacked. Because that's the goal at the end of the day, right? We want to get big and strong. And today I have a special guest, none other than the genetic freak themselves, Gaines Goblin. Say hello, please.
Hi.
She's not Johnny Church Mouse this time. We actually practiced a couple times, so she's a little bit more comfortable. I have her here today to talk about every single factor that can get you strong because it's not just natural size and strength that are predictors of what you can do. There are so many other things, and not gonna lie, bro, they're gonna get ranked pretty high because they're not insignificant. I'm not gonna sit here and cope and say they're not. But just because you're naturally big or strong does not mean that you're going to be good at absolutely everything that contributes to a good rate of progression. My goal today is to take someone that thinks that, they're just doomed and give them a new lease on their training. So the way that I want you to follow this is first and foremost, follow along jacked animal tiers, all right? The lowest tier is Chad tier. What that implies is that none of these things are bad necessarily, it's just more or less impactful. And you could have less impactful things that all accumulate in multiple entries to something that is significant. Much the same if you don't have a bunch of these lower ones, but you only have a few top ones, that may not contribute to as good of a rate of progress because training ultimately is a marathon and not a race. I'm not going to read the tier names to you. You see them. Dragon Slayer down to Chad tier. What we're going to get into right here is natural strength and size. Obviously, they're significant, right? So if you start off jacked or strong, like the Gaines Goblin, you're going to be just a jacked and generally strong person. What's your best set of stiff leg deadlifts? You remember?
No.
She doesn't even remember. She doesn't even think about it. That's how much of a phenom she is. I think it was like 155 pounds for like 13 reps. Mind you, she's 5'2", and like I said, she doesn't work out. And I'm pretty sure I just told her to stop. She just kept going. It was insane. That being said, just because you're naturally big and strong does not mean that you're going to be good at absolutely everything. Much the same, we're going to talk about a natural, like, good rate of progression outside of, just any of these other factors. Like, you do everything else wrong, your diet's crap. That's important as well. That's significant. And I picked a picture of Baki, by the way. Y'all watching the new season of that? How did you feel about the new season? I liked it. That's important as well, but it's not the end all be all because you can have so many other things that can add or subtract from that. If you live like a heathen, you're going to get heathen like results. Now, I've been looking at this picture of Goku. Natural appetite, like how much food can you shovel down, is super important. That's another Dragon Slayer tier, in my opinion, bro. So if you are naturally kind of big, naturally kind of strong, but then you don't ever eat to support your training, dude, muscles don't grow from nothing. They grow from food. How you feel about that?
I would agree.
See, even the Gaines Goblin agrees, and I have to like pressure them every day to freaking eat. Now, related to that, not only being able to just, dude, shovel down the food, I picked the tasty looking processed food to illustrate this point. But also being able to digest and process large amounts of food without any, digestional distress or getting the bubble guts is super important because you need to be able to eat a good amount of food, more than you're comfortable eating, to maintain your weight over a long period of time. There are fellas that are just naturally big and strong and have freaking irritable bowel syndrome and just struggle to eat, and then it's harder to realize their potential because of that. Next one we're going to do, this is going to be, like something that I'm really tired of hearing people talk about. The Beast Titan from Attack on Titan, the guy that throws rocks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we picked him to illustrate having, well, not only just precision. I didn't even think about that. That's a good one. Maybe we'll talk about that. But this is just to illustrate having long limbs. So let me give you a little bit of lore. All right, so fellas are under the impression that,
Long limbs.
yeah, like long arms and legs. Like you and I have long arms and legs. Well, oh, you're about to give your opinion on it. What do you think?
Oh, I just didn't know that was a genetic advantage.
I would say it is. So a lot of people are under the impression that it isn't an advantage because it's harder to progress on bench press and, oh, my arms are so long, I can't bench 2 plates. I would say that, limb lengths are rules with how you need to engage with your training and not necessarily a disadvantage. In fact, I would say that it is an advantage. If you have long arms and legs, you have a lot more space to put muscle on your limbs than someone with shorter limbs. You see what I'm saying? Which is only an advantage for size, in my opinion. It makes all your bench presses have more range of motion, so you're getting more meat on your pecs because of that. It's just only a good thing, and I'm gonna personally put it in the Belgian blue tier. What do you think?
I didn't think it was a genetic advantage, so I think I'd put it lower.
Well, you also don't lift. All right, so we're gonna put it in we're gonna put it in Belgian blue tier.
If we're talking about precision, then I'd put it in Belgian blue.
Yeah, because the Beast Titan be throwing them rocks.
I'd put it in the lion tier personally.
All right, so we have our first contentious entry, fellas. You let me know. For fellas that don't have that insight, watch the Berserk Method 2023. We have a guide on there showing fellas with long limbs how to get the most out of their training. She just pointed to the soy jack with the big ass head, like the big brain. We're gonna talk about that ugly guy in a second. Y'all might be looking at the version of Goku that I did dirty by just making him super stout and short. This is obviously the opposite of long limbs, short limbs. I think that this is an equal advantage, obviously, but just in a different arena. So, well, yeah, say that again.
You look more jacked.
Yeah, it's easier to
more compact.
It's easier to fill out your frame and look, bigger on social media, for example, when you're shorter. That's not necessarily what I was going to talk about. Wherein having long limbs is an advantage for size, having shorter limbs is an easier barrier of entry to putting up impressive numbers, right? So all things being equal, it'll be easier for a guy with shorter limbs to bench 3 plates than it will for a guy with longer arms to bench 3 plates. So I'm going to put that also in Belgian blue tier. I may even just put it in horse tier just because, like, all right, dude, you have a lower barrier of entry to strength, but your limbs are shorter. You can't build as much muscle as someone that has a larger frame than you.
Also, I feel like shorter people, though, or shorter limbs, I should say, have less issues with, like, joints.
That's true. Maybe I'll put them in. I'm definitely going to put them below having long limbs, and that's not just because we both have long limbs, and it's not biased, okay? I just genuinely, objectively feel that way. But I like that argument, Gaines Goblin. Thank you for the keen insight. All right. So next, frame width and height. I picked the Chad Steve Reeves to illustrate this. Now, here's the thing, fellas. You don't need to have the biggest, broadest shoulders to have jacked actual muscles on your shoulders. It'll give you the appearance of being larger when you're not jacked, 1, and then 2, again, just like with the limbs, if you have a larger frame, you're going to be able to more easily pack on muscle. You know these muscle building charts where they say, yeah, you build like 20 pounds of muscle in your entire life? First and foremost, I'm convinced that those only apply to people that are like 5'2", 5'3", right? And it just does not apply equally to someone that is taller, that is like my height. I'm 5'11". Gaines Goblin's pretty short, but they have longer limbs and like a larger frame for a woman in terms of like how long their legs and their arms are. If you have that larger frame, you're going to be able to pack on more muscle. So I'm going to put that in. Man, I'm going to put that in Belgian blue tier. This lean dude, this jacked and stacked. Your natural ability to be lean is important and it is significant. I'm only going to put it in horse tier though, because the goal isn't necessarily to be lean. It's to build muscle. If you have a natural ability to be lean, you can cut so much deeper, and then that would imply that you can bulk for a lot longer. So I always say that we cut to make room for more bulking, right? And if you can cut, say, 40 pounds comfortably, you can make room to bulk 40 pounds, whereas someone that can't necessarily cut that low may only be able to cut 20 pounds comfortably and then subsequently only be able to bulk 20 pounds. So pretty important and pretty underrated. I know a lot of fellas that are hard gainers, you know, that just knocked off so many light bulbs in their head. I'm actually, you know, able to stay pretty lean myself, and that's an advantage that I enjoy. All right. This is Fat Perfect Cell or Semi Perfect Cell about the Harakiri himself with an explosion. I almost used the S word. I'm not sure you can say that on YouTube without getting demonetized. But this is an ability to gain weight easily. So some fellas can eat a ton, they can just digest whatever, and we're not talking like the typical hard gainer, oh yeah, dude, I eat a large pizza every day and 5,000 calories, and then they eat like 2,000 calories a day. I'm talking about the fella that can shovel down food, they're eating a ton, and they just can't gain weight very well. If you're missing this dude, honestly, I'm putting that at the top of Dragon Slayer tier so far. That's like the most important thing. If you're trying to gain muscle, the objective of that is gaining weight. And if you can gain weight simply and predictably, dude, that's the name of the game. All right. I put that even above being naturally big or strong, because here's the thing, fellas. No one is just naturally walking around looking like a Mr. Olympia. No one's naturally walking around super duper jacked and stacked. They may have somewhat more of a baseline than you, but getting bigger is where the exceptional size comes from, right? So the Gaines Goblin, genetic freak. However, they're not, you know, a Mr. Olympia sized guy, all right? They're 5'2" and good genetics, but they haven't actualized their potential because they haven't gotten a whole lot bigger, all right? And that's just what we're referring to here. Now, related to this is a natural ability to build muscle while in a lean state. This is something that is underrated and not really talked about a lot. I don't think I have an icon for that, but I'm also going to put it up there with that Baki icon that we talked about earlier. We'll just go ahead and use them for this again. If you can build muscle, even just a little bit, I'm not talking about a lot. If you can progress in your training from the start of your cut to the end of your cut, and then be able to bulk super slowly, this is actually something that I can do. You're going to long term, again, since this is a long term game, be able to put on more muscle than someone that can't do that. And that's just something that is super underrated in my opinion. I know this is going to apply to a lot of fellas that, you know, are hard gainers. They feel like, dude, it's hard for me to put on weight. And they're putting on weight slowly and predictably over time. Dude, that is good. You're not going to become Mr. Olympia overnight. This is a 5-10 year game that you're going to be putting muscle on for years. And if you can put on weight without putting on a ton of fat, dude, you're building muscle. All right? And that's something that you should be proud of. All right, we're finally going to talk about the big brain soy jack. All right? This is how well you learn new exercises. Where are we going to put the big brain soy jack at?
Belgian.
Belgian? Belgian blue tier. That's what the Gaines Goblin says. Why are we putting the big brain soy jack in Belgian blue tier?
Because if you can't conceptualize things, now you're going to do it.
Absolutely. So if you're naturally big, naturally strong, yeah, you can put on weight easily, you got big appetite, you can iron stomach, but your form is absolute garbage, and you just don't know how to do exercises properly. You're just pure Sammy sausage head mode. You're not going to get the stimulus from these exercises that you may necessarily be looking for. Natural injury resistance is the next one that I want to talk about. I got the freaking durability icon. All right, so honestly, dude, we got a lot of Dragon Slayer stuff. The name of the game is that like as I said, natural size and strength are not the end all be all. Like they're not the only things in Dragon Slayer tier. A lot of times, what stops people from getting exceptionally good at something relating to like exercise or athletics isn't necessarily like this freaking ceiling where like I can't make any more damn gains. It's how long can we train without hurting ourselves? If you're someone that has just more natural durability than someone, you're going to make more gains than them long term if they keep repeatedly hurting themselves. There are tons of fellas that are just, I look at them and I'm like, dude, this guy has the potential to be like a world-class talent. And they are just hurt or keep hurting themselves and they never actualize that potential. So, as I said, if you're good at some of these ones that people seek after, so natural size and strength and leanness and everything visual and vacuous. But then like you have the durability of wet toilet paper. You know what I'm saying, bro? Despite interacting with your exercise as well, eating a ton, you're not going to progress very far in your training. Likewise, if you have that durability, you can trust that you'll be able to train long term and not hurt yourself. As a former athlete, how do you feel about that?
I'd agree.
She was a gymnast, and that is, one of the most dynamic athletic sports, and also it comes with a lot of injury risk as well. And, you know, she performed at a very high level, and that is because of her natural durability.
I had no injuries.
She has the Chad no injuries. See, all right, I watched the new season of Baki without the Gaines Goblin. She was she was completely disinterested in watching it now just because I watched it without her. And guys, look, I tried to say, like, look, I've read the manga years ago. All right, I already knew it was going to happen. I just don't want to watch it anymore.
You experienced it without me.
The reason why I bring up Baki is that Baki is doing it's called the cockroach rush. He kind of imitated like a cockroach to reach max acceleration and explosiveness. And then that's like how he gets like faster or whatever. This refers to natural explosiveness. I think that there are, I'm going to rank it in lion tier, honestly. I think that this is a trainable quality, and the amount of explosiveness that you need specifically for strength and conditioning is negligible compared to something that that same physical quality that you may need for like sprinting or gymnastics or any dynamic sport. Whereas doing freaking bicep curls, bro, you're just horsing the weight around. And if you need more explosiveness for something like a deadlift, that requisite level of explosiveness is trained just by doing deadlifts, in my opinion.
I don't know, when I think explosiveness, it's like your ability to keep up like your stamina. Like if you don't have good stamina, then your explosiveness is probably stronger in the beginning and fizzles out by the end.
That was beautifully done, and this is why the Gaines Goblin and I are together, because she's not even looking at these icons. She's not looking at the racehorse, the donkey, the workhorse, but that beautifully segued into the discussion of the different types of just volume tolerances, intensity tolerances that you can have as a lifter. Beef Cannon Jeffrey made a video in this GVS, for those that somehow aren't subscribed to him already, made a really good video talking about the 4 kinds of basically lifter that you can be. That's workhorse, racehorse, the freaking donkey, and then the unicorn. And guys, I had to find like the chaddest freaking picture of a unicorn that I could, because I refused to have freaking glitter and stickers all over my goddamn tier list. So I picked the flaming robot unicorn. Gaines Goblin's looking like, I would have appreciated some glitter and stickers.
Your Swifties might have.
Swifties? I hope I don't. Well, if I do have some Swifties, welcome. This is Taylor Swift enjoyers. I don't want to alienate you, but I prefer the flaming unicorn, okay? Preamble aside, the workhorse is really good at keeping up consistent effort throughout the session and doing a lot of volume. The racehorse is good at explosive effort and good intensity, and they grow from these things, but not so much volume. The donkey, we feel like, is worse than all of those, but I'm going to tell you why. Honestly, I'm putting them a tier above, and we'll talk about that. And then the unicorn, they're just good at everything. The reason why I put the donkey above everything, and the donkey is just like someone that they can't do that much volume, and they're not that explosive. They can't do that much intensity. They can't recover from it. Y'all ever hear like, the people who develop the most strength or get the most of whatever are those that want it the most? So let's just say that you've got some decent, your limb length is good, you're good at gaining weight, you got a good strength and size base, and you can shovel down a lot of food, but for the life of you, dude, like you can't do that much volume and you can't train very intensely. These are still trainable qualities, so you can train your body to be able to do more volume and intensity. And someone that is just the underdog dude versus the, the freaking unicorn. Honestly, I'm putting you in lion tier because these are the fellas like that are just naturally good at stuff that don't push their limits unless they have a reason to. If you're the underdog, I feel like you're going to push yourself further and just want shit more. Y'all let me know how you feel about that. That's just my personal opinion. How you feel about that?
Team Unicorn.
Team Unicorn? Man, only reason I'm not putting it in the lowest tier is because I refuse to call a unicorn a Chad. All right, we're going to put him in the lion tier. Yeah, you are a unicorn, but you know what? You also have a 13-inch neck. All right, unacceptable. I say that in jest, but her neck is fucking 4 inches bigger than her arms, which is absurd. It's an absurd ratio. That's a horse tier ratio. What did I call you last tier list? I called you Air Horse 1. All right. Fellas, we have freaking horses in the Belgian blue and the lion tier. Wow. This tier list is pretty esoteric in terms of the icons. Are you a Sammy sausage head, bro? Like, if you're just, and by that I mean, like, are you someone that always changes their program, always changing the way that they do an exercise? You can't get right. Like, I'd say if, dude, you got a good head on your shoulders, dude. Dragon Slayer tier. Fat distribution that is favorable for performance. This is like, yeah, like it's not. I might even just put it in Chad tier, bro. Like that's just icing on the cake. And same thing for fat distribution for aesthetics. Like it's just the last little bit that gives you the last oomph, right? It's not as significant as any of these up here. I'm not even gonna put it in the lion tier with the stupid unicorn, in my opinion. Now, one that is really, really underrated and is just a lost art in this generation of TikTok brain rot is patience. I got the Chad Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a hill. Have you ever heard of that myth before? The fella that pushes the boulder up for eternity, but like the idea is to be like Sisyphus. So just because you'll be pushing the boulder for eternity, you have to learn to fall in love with that process to be able to become good at it. How high would you put being patient?
Dragon Slayer.
Why would you put it in Dragon Slayer?
Because you just said it's a marathon, not a race.
Absolutely. The Gaines Goblin gets it. Like I said, they were an athlete. And I would say, especially if you have a bunch of these Dragon Slayer tier traits and you don't have patience, even if you're durable, dude, you're going to crash and burn if you're running the marathon like it's a race.
That's why the turtle wins the race.
Yeah, the turtle has the freaking, the beefed up shell and the massive six pack and the thick arms and legs, whereas the Hare, he's a pencil neck. He pretty much he has small arms. He got the freaking pasta string arms, and he barely looks like he lifts. Whereas the Chad Turtle's a little slower, but he's also more jacked.
Also prevents you from being peer pressured or feeling like I don't know. I feel like with social media and stuff, like you always see what other people are doing or how they're progressing, and I feel like you see the end results. You never see the process that went into that. So I think if you're someone who has a lot of patience, you're not always looking to see someone else's end results and feeling like, oh, how'd they get there so quick, or how'd they, achieve their like physical goals or financial goals. I don't know, whatever it is. But like, I don't know. I just feel like you don't feel pressured to get to the finish line as quickly as maybe you see others.
That was beautifully put, woman. I appreciate that. You actually mentioned patience or peer pressure. We were just talking about patience. You mentioned peer pressure. I have a fella saying freaking, oh wow, this is rare bald Omni-Man L. I could have got the freaking Dare Lion to illustrate peer pressure, but I got this hokey pokey bullshit instead. He's saying no to cigarettes. If you're someone that can't be easily peer pressured, and easily influenced by the ideas of others. So, in other words, if you see someone that, makes a TikTok or Instagram reel saying that some exercise that works really well for you specifically is shit and you stop doing it, versus someone that sees that and says, "What? You're less jacked than me. Why would I listen to you?" You're going to stop tinkering with your program so much and stay on the straight and narrow. So if you're not peer pressured by that, or by fellas that, are using vitamin S and destroying their health by abusing drugs, and you're staying on the straight and narrow, bro, you're going to make better long-term progress and have more long-term health and fitness. Let's not forget that this is fitness, not just being jacked or strong. Good holistic health. This is being able to handle setbacks. How well do you think this is going to place on the tier list? Like, all right, so let's just say you have all of these up here except for the peer pressure one, or maybe including the peer pressure one. But every setback is like, fuck, it's the end of the world. How well do you think you'll do versus if you take setbacks very well?
You ain't gonna get nowhere.
Absolutely. So, contrary to popular belief, that mental fortitude is something that people naturally have within them. But if you don't have that where you want it, like all of these things, other than like ones relating to like your morphology, like your limb length, they're mostly all trainable qualities. Like you can train yourself to be able to hold more natural leanness, at a maintenance state. You can train your explosiveness. You can train yourself to do more volume. But if you naturally have good mental fortitude and you don't listen to these losers that tell you you'll never be anything, or you don't catastrophize every mediocre training session where you didn't do as well as you wanted to, or every time you don't hit a PR, you're not on the fucking internet typing out paragraphs about how it was because you didn't sleep and I was sick and would have been there, but I shoulda, coulda, woulda. All right, what are we gonna do next time? If you can handle that well and you have good mental fortitude, honestly, dude, the strength of mind is most important. So we're gonna put that at the top of Dragon Slayer.
Attitude is everything. People say, with sports especially, and even gymnastics, it's really like 90% mental and only 10% physical.
All right, now the last one is the Chad Milo of Croton. He is a mythical character describing progressive overload. And we're just going to put this as someone who adheres to a good process, like they're able to adhere to a good process and do something that works well enough. Like, dude, okay, yeah, maybe the Chad Milo of Croton could have freaking carried a freaking some other large animal, or carried him on the other shoulder, or done whatever. But this fella carried the animal, this large bulbous animal, and just as the animal got bigger, he just got bigger himself, and he just trusted in that process. How well would you rank trust in the process? Dragon Slayer, enough said. And this is also something that comes down to your mentality, and some people naturally have that and some people don't. But as I said, that is still a trainable quality, and that's a big area of opportunity that can contribute a lot to your rate of progression. Fellas, this was a lot of fun. I hope y'all enjoyed the tunes. Gaines Goblin was a lot more comfortable on camera this time. What do you think? Fellas, y'all let me know how many Dragon Slayer traits you have, or, as I said, what you learned about yourself. Like, do you have a new lease on your training? How do you feel about everything? She's counting out how many Dragon Slayer traits you can have. She's counting that out because it's like, dude, how many of you fellas that feel like you're good for nothing are going to be able to look at all 12 of these? Because I can't count. She counted for me. How many of y'all are going to be able to look at all 12 of those and say that you have absolutely none of them? Like, let's just be real, all right? But I'm going to let y'all discuss in the comments. You let me know how you feel about the video. Have a great day.